Hi, welcome back to Walking Through the Word. I'm Brother Reed, and today we're continuing in Genesis chapter 6. So let's start right away and get right. Hi, I'm Brother Reed. Welcome back to Walking Through the Word, and today we're going to continue our work in Genesis chapter 6. So let's jump right into it and continue where we left off. Verse 9. These are the records of the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his time. Noah walked with God. Noah became the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And like I said, it doesn't talk about any other kids. Doesn't mean that he didn't have them, just that they probably died in the flood too. These are the 3 that got to get out of there. Now this translation says blameless in his time. Most translations say blameless in his generations. And again, this is one of these, you got to watch, things aren't translated correctly, because it's important that we understand what's actually being said. Because it's being changed. Saying he's blameless in his time is very different than saying that he was perfect in his generations. And but it's probably more accurate to say blameless in his generations, because we can look at what the accusation, what was happening at the time. That God felt was necessary to mention was that there was these Nephilim in the days, and the sons of God were coming down and they were taking the daughters of men, and now all flesh had become corrupted, it says. Verse 11, it says, now the earth was corrupt in the sight of God, and the earth was filled with violence. But part of this corruption was that there needed to be this pure human to come and to be the perfect sacrifice. And Jesus had to be a lamb without spot or blemish. And so there was this genocode that had to be preserved up until Christ. And it's part of the reason why there was all these genealogies and stuff, so we can see who is what. And like I said, we follow the bloodline of Christ all the way through here, and some other significant peripheral characters. But for the most part, what we're doing is we're following this bloodline of Christ as it goes along. And I'm not saying that we're talking about a genetically superior race. We're talking about a genetically ideal human, like and that like someone who doesn't have diabetes in their family, and someone who doesn't have whatever, think about whatever genetic disorder that there might be. These defects didn't exist. This was like this ideal, perfect human, because he was a human without spot or blemish. And this genotype needed to be preserved throughout here. And this is kind of my contention on it, that this is what was going on. And there's other theologians that agree that this was a corruption of this this human genome. The human species was being threatened. And without the human sacrifice for human sin, there would be no, human redemption. And so that this was part of this was becoming a problem. Verse 11, now the earth was corrupt in the sight of God, and the earth was filled with violence. God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way upon the earth. So now again, I believe this is dealing with this genotype that was getting mixed in. These were the mighty men of renown, and so to me that suggests hunters and fighters and heroes. You think of like Hercules and stuff like that, and their war campaigns and things like that. And so now God was looking at this, and the earth was filled with this violence, and a lot of that, in my contention again, is coming from these half-breeds, these Nephilim. This is the problem. This is, again, like I said, we'll see that the tribes that come later that were related and associated with the Nephilim and stuff like that, all were kind of destroyed, and all. God was trying to get that out of the human genome and preserve it, just preserve humanity. And again, not one race, but all of humanity and this one person that would come later, this Jesus that would come, this Savior, this Messiah, this Lamb without spot or blemish. Verse 13. Then God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. And behold, I am about to destroy them from the earth. Make for yourself an ark of gopher wood. You shall make the ark with rooms, and shall cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you shall make it. The length of the ark, 300 cubits. Its breadth, 50 cubits. And its height, 30 cubits. You shall make a window for the ark, and finish it to a cubit from the top, and set the door of the ark in the side of it. You shall make it with lower, second, and third decks. Behold, I, even I, am bringing the flood of water upon the earth to destroy all flesh, in which is the breath of life. From under heaven, everything that is on the earth shall perish. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. And of every living thing of all flesh you shall bring 2 of every kind unto the ark, to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female, of the birds after their kind, and of the animals after their kind, of every creeping thing of the ground after its kind. 2 of every kind will come to you, to keep them alive. As for you, take for yourself some of all food which is edible, and gather it to yourself, and it shall be for food for you and for them. Thus Noah did according to all that God commanded him. So he did. In Noah's Ark, this is one of these things that people bring up to say that this was impossible. This was crazy. This wasn't ever happened. It couldn't have happened. There's no way he could fit all those. There's no way he could fit all those animals on one boat. They couldn't build a boat that big, and you hear it all. But no one ever stops to consider. What we need to consider is the idea that this was regional, and it's not that the catastrophe was regional. It's that the story of Noah was regional. And if we look around the world, we see all over the world stories of this global catastrophe. And I'll try to find some information, and again, I'll put a link in the description about it. But there was a global catastrophe. Something happened. Well, I can't say everybody, but all over the world we have these stories of survival that are very similar to Noah. There was one righteous family that was taken out, and they built a boat, and they went up over the water. Some of them went down into tunnels in the ground, and there's different things. But this story isn't all that uncommon. Is it possible that something happened? Yeah, it is. We know that things happen sometimes on a global scale. So it's possible. Have we ever found the ark? Well, there is something up there on the mountains of Ararat that looks like a boat. Some people contend that's Noah's Ark. We haven't been able to prove it. Again, I'll try to put a documentary about that one down here. To me, it's the most promising that's what that is. And the other thing that they talk about is that all the animals. Well, if it was all the animals round about Jerusalem, it was a big boat, and he took babies, because a baby elephant, is like this, but a big elephant takes up that much space. So why not bring a baby elephant? A lot of animals are incubated in eggs. How many eggs can you fit in a craft that big? So, yeah, it's possible that there was all the animals that God brought to him. It says birds after their kind. It doesn't say every single breed of bird. He needed a pigeon, he grabbed a couple pigeons. He needed a dove. Actually, doves are pigeons. Couple crows, whatever. He needed to get a couple monkeys. He didn't need to get every type of monkey. He needed to get, if there are monkeys in Jerusalem. But this is the point, that he needed to get 2 of every type of animal. He didn't need to get, 2 dogs. He didn't need to get, 2 German Shepherds, 2 Labradors, you need to get 2 dogs. And so we get 2 of every type of animal going into the ark. They were the animals that God selected, that God sent to him. He didn't go out looking for them. And again, like I said, it's quite possible and most likely that these were very young animals that were taken onto the ark for the size so they would fit. You'd have to be really stupid to take all adults. It would be crazy because their lifespan isn't that long. You want to grab the kids anyhow, let them grow up and breed and repopulate things, right? Or you can get all these eggs in here and stuff like that, like I said. So it's possible that this could have happened. There's an old saying that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. And just because we haven't found something yet doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And we got to keep that in mind, that we didn't prove that it didn't happen. What we haven't proved is that it has happened. And so we continue to look, and we continue to take a lot on faith. That's what this is. But the idea of the story and its inclusion here is very important, and we're going to take it again for face value. We're reading a book, right? So Noah got the instructions from God on how to build the ark. So if we can say that our shipwrights today can't build it, well, maybe God's a better shipwright than we have today, and he was probably a better shipwright than existed back then. So if God said he figured out a way to do it, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. God probably figured out a way to do it and taught Noah how to do the same thing and build this boat that kept them alive and went through that. And that brings us to the end of chapter 6. Okay, and that brings us to the end of chapter 6. And if I can get my mouse to click. Why is this not clicking?